it'd be measured a lot against, singing it, and there's nothing I can. And how many albums they got? It's like, I have a couple, and they have, they have a stack.
Axl Rose isn't just the legendary frontman of Guns N' Roses. He's the volatile, snarling embodiment of rock and roll danger. His voice, a mix of raw power and fragile poetry, delivered anthems that became the soundtrack for a generation. But his iconic music is matched only by his notoriously short fuse and brutally honest tongue. If you were a fellow rock star in his crosshairs, you learned that his words could be as vicious as any guitar riff. Today, we revealed the 6 rock legends who felt the full, unfiltered force of Axl Rose's fury. 1. Slash.
Yeah, it actually really important is when I got into this, what I didn't want to do is have it be me doing a traditional blues record, because I just do what I do, and I'm a rock and roll guy.
No fight defines Axl Rose more than his long and bitter feud with his own lead guitarist, Slash. Their bond crumbled over 2 decades, starting with creative differences and ending in deep personal betrayal. To understand Axl's other public battles, you have to understand this one first. The main conflict blew up while the band was recording their massive 1991 albums, Use Your Illusion 1 and 2. It was then that Axl and Slash realized they had completely different visions for the band's future. Axl was done with the simple, gritty rock that made them famous. He wanted to create something bigger, more epic. He dreamed of adding full orchestras to their songs and writing complex piano ballads like November Rain. He wanted Guns N' Roses to be remembered as one of the greatest bands ever, like Queen or Led Zeppelin. He was so driven that he told their manager, Alan Niven, he wanted to release a double album faster than Led Zeppelin had. In Axl's mind, he was already competing with rock history's giants. He wasn't just making a record. He was trying to build a timeless masterpiece. Slash, however, wasn't on board. He and rhythm guitarist Izzy Stradlin wanted to stick to what they did best. They loved the raw, wild energy of their debut album, Appetite for Destruction, and wanted to make a similar record, a short, powerful album with 10 hard-rocking tracks. They believed this was the true sound of Guns N' Roses. Because of these opposing ideas, the recording studio became a battlefield. Axl grew obsessed with perfection, leading to huge fights. He would often show up hours late, leaving the rest of the band to stew in anger. When he was there, he started making more decisions on his own, ignoring his bandmates' opinions. Axl thought he was elevating the band's music into high art. He told Rolling Stone, "I'm not interested in compromising to make people happy. I'm interested in making the music I want to make." But to the rest of the band, it felt like Axl was stealing their group right out from under them. Their manager, Alan Niven, later grimly explained, it was Axl's battle to take complete control and most of the money. The more control he gained, the less they were productive, and the worse the material got. This was more than a simple musical disagreement. It was a war for the soul of Guns N' Roses. Axl wanted to evolve, while Slash wanted to protect the magic that had made them stars. While creative fights were tearing them apart, the final nail in the coffin was deeply personal for Axl. According to their manager, Doug Goldstein, the breaking point was Slash's decision to collaborate with pop superstar Michael Jackson. In 1991, Slash announced he would play guitar on one of Jackson's songs. At the time, Jackson was facing serious allegations. The news devastated Axl, who had publicly spoken about his own horrific abuse at the hands of his father. To Axl, Slash working with Jackson wasn't just a career move, it was a profound moral betrayal. Goldstein said he tried to warn Slash. "I told him not to do it because Axl was molested by his father when he was 2 and he believed the charges against Michael Jackson," he recalled. Making matters worse in Axl's eyes was the payment Slash received. While another guitar hero, Eddie Van Halen, was reportedly paid $1 million for his solo on Jackson's Beat It. Slash was allegedly paid with just a big screen TV. This small payment made the whole affair feel cheap and disrespectful to Axl. Goldstein explained the depth of the wound. When Axl found out, he was devastated. The betrayal from within was one thing, but soon Axl would face an even bigger challenge from the outside. Axl's internal wars were just the start. If you're here for the unfiltered stories that defined rock, hit that subscribe button. You won't want to miss what comes next. 2. Kurt Cobain. The feud between Axl Rose and Kurt Cobain was one of the most defining rock rivalries of the 1990s. It was more than just a clash of personalities, it was a culture war. Initially, Axl was a massive fan of Kurt's band, Nirvana. He was spotted many times wearing a Nirvana hat and praised their 1991 album, Nevermind, which was reshaping rock music. He even told a magazine called Metallics, "I'd like to hear Nirvana do Welcome to the Jungle." In the beginning, Axl saw a raw authenticity in Nirvana that he genuinely admired. He saw them as rock's future, but Kurt Cobain did not feel the same. For Kurt, Guns N' Roses represented everything wrong with rock music. He saw them as a corporate, bloated band that embodied the worst of 1980s sexism and excess. Kurt's dislike was ideological. He was especially offended by the lyrics in the GNR song "One in a Million," which used slurs against black and gay people. Kurt made his position crystal clear, stating, "The guy is a sexist and a racist and a homophobe, and you can't be on his side and be on our side." He drew a firm line in the sand. The conflict escalated when Axl tried to get Nirvana to tour with Guns N' Roses and Metallica. For Axl, this was a sign of respect and a smart move to link his old guard band with the new grunge sound. But Kurt refused. He saw the offer as joining the very corporate rock world he was fighting against. He didn't want to be part of the stadium rock machine. This public rejection from a musician he admired was a major blow to Axl's ego. The hurt quickly turned to rage. Axl began using his concerts as a platform to spew venom about Kurt and his wife, Courtney Love. The ugliest attack came during a show in July 1992. On stage, Axl called the couple a junkie with a junkie wife. He then made a truly horrific comment about their infant daughter, Frances Bean, telling the crowd that if their child was born deformed, "I think they both ought to go to prison." It was an incredibly cruel remark, showing how threatened Axl felt by Nirvana's rise. Their war of words finally came to a head backstage at the 1992 MTV Video Music Awards, as Axl and his then-girlfriend, supermodel Stephanie Seymour, walked by Kurt, Courtney, and their baby. Courtney couldn't resist a sarcastic jab. She yelled out, "Axl, will you be the godfather of our child?" Axl, already on edge, completely snapped. He marched up to Kurt, pointed a finger in his face, and screamed the infamous threat, "You shut your girl up, or I'll take you down to the pavement." Instead of cowering or fighting back, Kurt delivered a masterclass in psychological warfare. He calmly turned to a laughing Courtney and said in a deadpan voice, "Shut up." The crew and friends around them erupted in laughter. But while he lost the war of wits against grunge's new prince, Axl was more than ready to get physical with an old-school rival from the Sunset Strip. 3. Vince Neil. The beef between Axl Rose and Vince Neil, the singer of Motley Crue, was a classic 1980s rock star showdown, fueled by ego and macho pride. This wasn't just a war of words, it nearly became a real fistfight. The trouble started in the summer of 1989 over an incident involving Axl's guitarist, Izzy Stradlin. According to Vince Neil's wife at the time, Charisse, a drunk Izzy had assaulted her at the Cat House, a famous LA nightclub. She claimed he grabbed her and kicked her in the stomach when she pushed him away. Vince Neil, a notorious brawler himself, was enraged. He decided to get his revenge at the 1989 MTV Video Music Awards. After Motley Crue presented an award to Guns N' Roses, Vince confronted Izzy backstage. As he wrote in his band's tell-all book, The Dirt, he walked up to Izzy and decked him good, right in the face. Axl Rose's reaction was immediate and furious. He started chasing Vince as he left, with Vince writing that Axl was snarling, like an overdressed Doberman. Axl screamed a torrent of threats, vowing to ruin him. Security guards broke up that encounter, but Axl was far from finished. He took the fight to the media, where he knew he could make a scene. In a legendary interview with Kerrang! Magazine, Axl issued a direct threat. "Hey, Vince, whichever way you want to go, man, guns, knives, or fists, whatever you want to do, I don't care." He repeated the challenge on MTV, daring Vince to a fight anytime, anywhere. This was Axl's signature move, turning a private dispute into a public spectacle. Vince Neil was not one to back down from a public challenge. He went on MTV, looked into the camera, and accepted Axl's offer. "I want to challenge you to a fight," he said. "I'm going to give you time, and I'm going to give you the place. There's no backing out now, buddy. It's time to put up or shut up." It looked like a real brawl between two of rock's biggest frontmen was actually going to happen, but the big fight never materialized. According to Vince, Axl kept making excuses and ducking him. Vince claimed Axl would set up meetup spots for the fight, like at Tower Records on the Sunset Strip, but then never show. This became a recurring theme for Axl. On the GNR song Get in the Ring, he famously called out music journalists by name, challenging Bob Guccione Jr. of Spin magazine to get in the ring before threatening to kick your face. When Guccione Jr. actually accepted the challenge and suggested donating the proceeds to charity, Axl again went silent. His tough guy act may have been exposed, but Axl's next battle would be fought with words. 4. Scott Weiland. When Axl's former bandmates, Slash, Duff McKagan, and Matt Sorum, formed a new band called Velvet Revolver, they chose Scott Weiland of Stone Temple Pilots as their singer. Axl was predictably furious about this new supergroup, which was composed of the men he felt had betrayed him. His first attack was a calculated one. In 2006, Axl's camp released a press statement describing a late-night visit from Slash, who supposedly came to Axl's house to make peace. But according to Axl's story, Slash also trashed his new bandmates, calling Scott Weiland a fraud, Duff McKagan spineless, and admitting he hates drummer Matt Sorum. Whether true or not, it was a clever move designed to sow discord within Velvet Revolver. Axl probably didn't count on Scott Weiland hitting back so viciously. Weiland refused to let the insult slide. Instead of a simple denial, he wrote a long, blistering open letter that has become legendary in rock lore. It was a brutal, point-by-point takedown of Axl Rose. Weiland's response was not just angry, it was surgically precise. He weaponized Axl's own image against him, mocking his physical appearance and telling him to go to the gym before getting a new wig. He then delivered the letter's most famous and brutal line, calling Axl a fat, Botox-faced, wig-wearing has-been. Next, Weiland attacked Axl's artistic reputation, turning the fraud comment back on him. Your unoriginal, uncreative little mind. The same mind that had to rely on its bandmates to write melodies and lyrics. Who's the fraud now? Weiland then contrasted Velvet Revolver's work ethic with Axl's, who hadn't released an album in over a decade. He mocked the infamous delays of Axl's long-awaited album, Chinese Democracy. How many albums have you put out, man? And how long did it take? To make this album? We toured our album over a year and a half. How many shows have you played over the last 10 years? The letter ended with a final, devastating shot, painting Axl as a pathetic has-been. What we're talking about here is a frightened little man who once thought he was king. But unfortunately, this king without his court is nothing but a memory of the tyrant he once was. It was a complete demolition of Axl's image, talent, and power. The battles with his own generation were one thing, but an old grudge over image and authenticity was about to resurface. From backstage brawls to open letters, Axl's wars were legendary. If you need more of this no-holds-barred rock history, subscribe now, because the stories only get wilder. 5. John Bon Jovi.
Guy would pull up in his brand new Corvette, and you're like, I'm in a 1963 Buick Special with a hole in the...
No feud better illustrates the importance of image in 1980s rock than Axl's long-simmering beef with John Bon Jovi. This wasn't a fight over a woman or a song, it was a war over what it meant to be an authentic rock star. The conflict began in pure Axl Rose fashion in December 1987 at a Chicago hotel. Guns N' Roses was on the verge of becoming the biggest band in the world when a fan made a critical error. He told Axl he looked like John Bon Jovi. To most, this would be a harmless observation. But in the tribal world of 80s rock, it was a grave insult. The band Bon Jovi was seen by many hard rock fans as soft and safe for radio. Music for girls. Guns N' Roses, meanwhile, had built their entire identity on being the opposite. Raw, unpredictable, and dangerous. Being compared to John Bon Jovi was a direct threat to the very image that made GNR special. Axl didn't laugh it off. He acted out the dangerous persona he was trying to protect. He responded to the fans' comment by punching him, sparking a brawl in the hotel lobby. He wasn't just hitting a fan, he was defending his authenticity. The very next night, while opening for Alice Cooper, Axl got on stage and made his feelings public, yelling a vulgar insult about Bon Jovi to the crowd. The feud was officially on. The fight lay dormant for nearly 2 decades, seeming like just another wild story from the 80s. But in 2006, John Bon Jovi himself reignited it. By then, Axl had become a recluse, and the saga of his endlessly delayed album, Chinese Democracy, had turned him into a mythical figure. John Bon Jovi, a relentless workhorse who was always touring and releasing albums, was clearly annoyed by the attention Axl was getting for doing nothing. In an interview, he let his frustration fly. "That guy hasn't made a record in 13 years, he complained, and he gets all that attention. They have continued to write about the freak show aspect of him, because he's a recluse. That makes him interesting, right? Do you know what I've done in 13 years? A lot." It was a surprising outburst from the usually professional Bon Jovi. While he could handle insults from a fellow rock god, Axl's legendary temper was about to meet its most ridiculous opponent. 6. Dexter Holland. In the final and perhaps most comical chapter of Axl's feuds, his conflict with Dexter Holland of the Offspring showed just how seriously Axl took himself. By 2003, the GNR album Chinese Democracy had become the music industry's biggest punchline. Axl had been working on it for nearly a decade, cycling through band members and reportedly spending over $13 million. The album was no longer just music. It was a symbol of Axl's obsessive perfectionism and isolation. This is where Dexter Holland and his punk band, The Offspring, decided to have some fun. Known for their prankster humor, they decided to poke the bear. On April Fool's Day 2003, they issued a press release announcing that their new album would also be called Chinese Democracy, adding the subtitle, "You Snooze, You Lose." Dexter Holland's statement was a perfect punk rock jab, and he even added a personal dig, "You snooze, you lose." Axl ripped off my braids, so I ripped off his album title. The braids comment was a petty but hilarious shot at Axl's cornrows hairstyle, a look Dexter had sported years earlier. Axl Rose, however, failed to see the humor. To him, Chinese Democracy wasn't a joke. It was his life's work. He saw the prank as a personal attack on his art. He didn't fire back with a witty comeback. Instead, he responded with the cold, humorless power of a corporation, having his lawyers send an official cease and desist letter to The Offspring, demanding they stop using the name. The legal threat only made the situation more absurd. The Offspring, who never intended to use the title, eventually named their album Splinter. Dexter later reflected, "I think it got blown up a little more than we intended it to." The incident perfectly captured Axl in the 2000s, a lonely king in his castle, dispatching lawyers to fight anyone who dared to mock him. These feuds paint a picture of a man at war, not just with his peers, but with his own past and himself. A difficult genius whose conflicts were as memorable as his choruses. Let us know in the comments which battle was the most epic. If you enjoyed this chaotic journey, give this video a like and subscribe for more.